CardGamesTV1 Podcast. My Playstyle. Just something that, it's funny to still see that some people still don't understand and get my Playstyle. I had somebody, telling me what they think, which is fair. I have no problem with hearing what people have to say. It's just that when they go too far, that becomes a problem. I'm all for criticism, right? But the criticism has to be legit. It can't just be an opinion, because opinions don't matter, and they definitely don't matter to me. So, because opinions are always based off of lies anyway. They're not based off of truth or reality. They're not based off of facts. So since they're not based off of facts, all I'm hearing is just lies. And that's part of that's an issue we have in the world, period. The fact that people think opinions matter. So somebody will have a negative opinion of you, and then they'll go off saying a whole bunch of stuff based off of that opinion, not realizing that it's a lie. That opinion is not based in reality. It's not based on who you're talking about. So you're talking about somebody in a way that isn't correct. Like the idea. Now, personally, I want, the goal is to get away from comboing, period, for me, to get the, and this is something that I've been practicing, to get to the point where it's like I don't need to combo. I mentioned this in many videos before about the idea of I rather negate an attack, block an attack, or just take it. Right? The new thing for it is, yes, obviously it's combo defensively. Don't combo offensively unless like you really have to. But typically you shouldn't need to. Your card should be your base power should be 20k anyway, right? Whatever unison battle cards that you use should be 20 power anyway. That way you don't need to combo, right? Your opponent is the one that needs to combo, right? To try to out combo your attack, because the most common way people defend, right, prevent damage is negate, block, or out combo the attack, or taking the damage. Now that might be considered contradicting, taking damage as a form of defending your life, but it's like, yeah, but it works though, because if you take single damage from one attack but stop or out combo or negate or block double strike damage, you saved yourself one life, because you would have taken 3 if you took off both attacks. You would have took 3 damage, but instead of taking 3 damage, you would save 2 life, because you took 1 damage and prevented 2. So you would have taken 3 if you prevented both attacks, right? But instead you only took 1 damage instead of 3. So you saved yourself life by taking a hit, because since you took damage, whatever card you added to your hand from the damage probably is going to help you go into out comboing the double strike damage. So you save. So by taking damage now, you can save yourself from more damage. So that translates like that. So that's why taking damage is a form of defense. Taking a hit. Like if you're fighting, you're not always going to be able to block every shot your opponent swings at you. But if you make sure that most of the shots are not to your face, right, not to your head, and have some of the shots hit your arms, hit your stomach, whatever, body shots, and if you can absorb them, then you're good. Like I said, you can't stop everything, so stop what you can and take everything else, right? So it's I use the same principle. I am a martial artist. Most people know that I go by the name Kung Fu, so there's a reason for it. I do train in martial arts, so I know I can't stop every every punch kick that comes my way. So I stop what I can and just absorb the rest, and then just move on from there. So comboing, not against using it if need be, but I'd rather not let my opponent get to the point where they can't, where I have to combo, right? I'd rather make sure that my opponent doesn't get to the damage step, right? I want to be doing the attacking, right? My opponent do the comboing. I don't want to be the one comboing. So all I'm doing is just trying to improve upon it, which is the way I play. Because I mean, it's weird for some people not to understand the idea of wanting to not to have to combo, right? Because what's funny is a lot of people love the idea of card advantage, right? Drawing a whole bunch of cards and having a whole bunch of cards to play. They love that idea, but for some reason, at the same time, they love the idea of throwing away cards by comboing. And it's like, you shouldn't, you should, if you're going to combo your cards, right? Ideally, you want to combo it when you go for game, right? When you attack and you dump your 30 card hand into your attack and bang, hit your opponent with a 20k double strike in the game, right? That's when you want to combo, is when you're going for game, right? You don't want to combo defensively. That's something you have to do if you're in a situation where you can't floodgate negate your opponent, you can't block, you can't negate, that kind of stuff. Like when you can't restrict, like with a leader effect like Hatchet or something, like when you can't prevent your opponent from attacking and hitting you or trying to hit your leader, that's where you have the combo. But you should be trying to play cards that make it hard for your leader to get attacked. Like Deadly Defenders are good cards, blocker unisons obviously are among the best. Obviously floodgate negates like Topo, Oceanus, Violent Rays, Flying Nimbus, that kind of stuff. Even a leader like Hatchiak, can help in that regard. Where you're making sure that your opponent doesn't get to take multiple swings at your leader. And you're trying to conserve your life as much as possible. You also have to take into account how much damage you're going to take every turn, and you're trying to minimize it as much, because you're trying to get to a certain turn, especially if your win con is a turn 5 win con, you're trying to get to turn 5. So the less damage you take, the better chance you have of getting to turn 5. I've been in scenarios where it's like, okay, I want to make a play, but if I make this play, I'll be tapped out, and if I'm tapped out, I can't defend, which means that's the turn I'm like, yeah, this is the turn I'm going to have to take damage, or I have to combo, or take damage and combo from the damage I took, right? So that's why like taking damage is a form of defense. A lot of people don't see it that way. Most people see taking damage as a form of card advantage, and it can be, of course, if you play right. It just depends on the situation, and if taking damage is a card advantage or not. But typically you don't want to lose life. You want to keep your life in your life area as long as possible until you really need to. It's the same thing as saving your awakening until you really need it. It's better to save your awakening until like your kill turn or something, because if you don't succeed in winning on your kill turn, right, on your turn in which you're trying to win with your win con, you can always awaken your leader, right, which makes you stronger, right, because you'll have more power on the awakened side. That helps you defensively, and if you have the untapped 2 energy leader, which is usually the best leader to use in that type of situation, then you have 2 energy up for floodgate negates, right, for Topo, Oceanus, for Flying Nimbus, Violent Rays, that kind of stuff, the blocker negates. That way you don't have to play the blocker negate for free, or at least if you have 2 of them, you could play one by paying 2, right, and then play the second one for free, by taking a life, so to speak, right? That way you can potentially stop 2 attacks and increase your chances of surviving that, the clapback, as they say, and then try your win con again, try to win on turn 6, right, if your win con is turn 5, that kind of stuff. So you gotta think that way. You gotta think ahead and plan for that kind of situation. But that's what I'm saying. When it comes to my playstyle, I talk about my playstyle. Some people probably think that my playstyle is like specifically like decks and stuff. Because the person that I'm thinking of, that I had a back and forth with, was trying to imply that my playstyle is based off of my deck, and therefore that the way for me to prove my playstyle would be to use my decks, and they'll prove that my playstyle is not good by quote unquote beating my decks, not realizing that my decks are not my playstyle. Right? How I play my decks is my playstyle. That's the misconception. Is assuming that my decks are a reflection of my playstyle, and it's not. It's the way I play my decks that's my playstyle. The decks are just tools, right? The decks are just my weapon of choice, as it were. So if I have a mill deck, right, then that's my weapon of choice, is milling. So how I play the mill deck is my playstyle, right? It's based off of how I choose to play the deck. Certain factors, like I typically mulligan 3 cards out my hand, typically. So basically 50% of my hand gets mulligan away. So I keep half of my hand and mulligan the other half, right? Then I mulligan my defensive cards away because I don't need them turn 1, turn 2, right? So I don't need them early game, right? Turn 1, turn 2, that's early game. Turn 3, turn 4, that's mid game. Turn 5 and above, that's late game. So I don't need my defensive cards, turn 1 and turn 2. So I mulligan them away. I'm trying to get a lot of my early game cards, right? My turn 1, turn 2 cards, which are usually going to be more likely aggro cards, cards that help me, deal the most amount of damage in the first 2 turns, because that's the best time to do the most amount of damage, because after that, it's going to be hard. And then these are not things I'm just saying just because it sounds cool and I'm making them up, thinking that the turn 1, turn 2 is the best time or not. No, I know for a fact that turn 1, turn 2 is the best time to do the most amount of damage, because after turn 2, it's going to get harder. And this is from experience. I'm not making this up, And some people like to act like it is. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. It's like, no, I know what I'm talking about. I have over 60 videos of me playing the game. So I do play the game. Not as much as I would like to, not as much as other people probably play. But ironically, I don't need to play 3,000 or 1,000,000 games in order to be good at the game. I just got to understand the game and be good at the game itself, like the understanding of how the game plays out. And then, when I play, that's more practice. Just, practice makes perfect, right? As they say. But, my years of experience, I already have knowledge and a lot of practice playing, Magic and Duel Masters and Force of Will and a lot of other card games where you tap energy and stuff like that to play stuff. I already have experience from playing those games. I easily can transfer that knowledge and experience over to this game. So, to me, Dragon Ball Super is just a reskin version of Magic, so it's not that different to me. It might be different to y'all, but not to me. So I already have all the experience I need in order to play the game. And the same strategy, the tactics that I use in that game, I use in this game. The difference between Magic and Dragon Ball Super is that summoning sickness doesn't exist in Super, so that makes it a huge deal. That's why turn 1, turn 2 is the best time to do damage, and then turn 3 and above, it's harder to do damage because your opponent has more energy for more negates, right? They can play more cards. Now in Magic, yes, more mana, right? More lands means more cards you can play. So I already know that from experience playing Magic, that I can do more combos. I can play 2 cards and combine them, their effects, and get like a really powerful outcome if I have more energy. Which is why I take advantage of turn 1, turn 2 to do the most amount of damage, because after that it's going to be harder when my opponent can play multiple negates, right? Not only they can play negates, they can play battle cards, right? They can play something they can attack with, or they can play, maybe a battle card or a unison or something that has some powerful floodgate ability, permanent or something, or floodgate, or an auto that they can trigger on my turn, so they can always, react and respond to what I'm doing, or they can drop a gasoline trunks right for free, so they can negate for free, and something I'm trying to do that I paid energy for, right, counter it for free, and then still have energy up to use for negations stuff, so they can play multiple cards. So once they get to a point where they can play multiple cards, it's going to be harder to get attacks to go through. I can have 4 attacks and only one of them get through. I got 4 attacks, but only one got through, which means the other ones were stopped. And the only way the other ones were stopped is because my opponent was able to afford it. They were able to pay to do that. So because of that, that's why it's important. The first 2 turns, you take advantage of that time to do the most amount of damage. And then after that, you end up chipping away at your opponent's life. 1 damage here, 1 damage there. You'll get lucky if you deal 1 damage a turn. So turn 1, turn 2, if you could do 4 damage, great. Then for the next 4 turns, if you get all the way up to turn 6, if that works out, you'll be chipping at your opponent's life. So hopefully you deal the last 4 damage, in the next 4 turns after the first 2 turns, right? But if you got experience, you can do better than that. I typically take my opponent down to 2 or 1 life by turn 4. So all I have to do is just focusing on keeping my defenses up and chipping at my opponent, right? It's not that different from like boxing, where it's like at the beginning of the match, you just start going in with a whole bunch of jabs and punches and hooks and this and that, just giving your opponent combos, right? Trying to break down the defenses, trying to soften them up, right? Hitting them everywhere, arms, legs, body shots. Try to hit them in the head. Just try to hit them as much as possible, so that way you can start breaking them down, softening them up. Like I said, start softening them up, so that way later on when you start throwing punches and stuff, especially if you're getting tired, your punches will still have an impact. They'll still hurt your opponent because they're already sore, right? Their muscles are already sore from all the hits you did early, like let's say round 1. So in round 2, you don't have to hit as hard or as much, because every hit you hit your opponent is quote unquote lethal, right? Like in Dragon Ball Super, you want to get your opponent life points so low that any attack that gets through your opponent's defenses will win you the game. That's what you want to be. You want to be in that position. So my playstyle is, again, it's just how I play. It's my understanding of the game. So it doesn't matter what deck I play. I could play a structure deck, and I'm going to play the structure deck the same way I play any deck. So it's not the deck that determines my playstyle. It just determines my win con, yes. It determines the strategy that I plan to use to win the game, right? But it doesn't determine my playstyle, because my playstyle is what leads me to my win con. It's what's going to get me to the point where my win con matters, right? If my goal is to get my opponent down to 2 life and then burn them for 2, then my playstyle will be first 4 damage the easiest, next 2 requires a little effort, right, and the last 2 I burn for game. So that means I'm going to have to do 6 damage in the first couple turns of the game, and then finish them off, hopefully by turn 4, do some burn effect, or turn 5 or turn 6, however way that works out. Ideally, you want to finish the game as fast as possible. So ideally, you want to finish the game on turn 3 and 4 if you can. But again, you need cards and a strategy to pull that off. Right now, I'm doing the Chain Zeno thing, so I have essentially a turn 4 kill strategy. So the idea is turn 1, turn 2, get my opponent down to at least 4 or less life, right? And then on turn 4, or if I can manage it on turn 3, I have to do a specific strategy to do it on turn 3. Then I can do it on turn 3 and then get my point from 4 to 0 in one shot. But I'm going to need specific cards for that. So I already have the strategy that gets me there. There's a strategy I've been using for long, well, I should say years. I've been using the strategy for years, ever since Unisys came into play, ever since we got Saiyan Scion and one drop 10k split battle card. I've been using the strategy for a long time. It's my main aggro strategy. So, I count it as part of my, playstyle, which is using this specific card, specific unison, as my aggro, because it fits my strategy, right? My playstyle, which is dealing a lot of damage in the first 2 turns of the game. Because after that, it's going to be hard to do damage. Because my opponent's defenses are going to be stronger. They're going to be able to play baby Hatchet and shit like that, and Oceanus, and the list goes on. And then not only that, my opponent's plus my opponent's hand size is going to drastically increase every turn. Like I said, turn 1, turn 2 is the best time to do the most damage. The reason why is because your opponent's hand size is the smallest at that time. Your opponent's hand size is typically 6 cards or less, or at least 7 cards or less, I should say, in the first 2 turns. After that, it grows exponentially, as they say, right? 8 cards, 10 cards, 12 cards, 30 cards. Like, I've played against some decks where, my opponent is like with 30 cards in their hands. I'm like, you drew half your deck, and I only got like 6 cards in my hand to play against your 30-card hand, but I still won, right? You know what I mean? So that's one of my flexes, is the fact that regardless of how many cards my opponent has, the card advantage, I still got the advantage. Because it doesn't matter what's in your hand. What matters is what you lay down, right? What you put down on the ground, right? What you put is what you do to get your W. That's what matters. So I had a debate with somebody about the importance of having a win con, being able to win with 1 card as opposed to try to have 30 plus cards in your hands and thinking that equals being a skillful player or being good at the game just because you have a whole bunch of cards in your hands. It's like, nah, that's the opposite. My grandma can draw 30 cards per game, and I'll still wreck my grandma with just 1 card. All I need is 1 card, 1 opportunity, 1 mic. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point. That's the idea of a win con, right? The idea that you just need at least 1 card to win. And there's many reasons for why you want to focus on 1 card victories, like an Android 17 turn tie, for example, or an ultimate like an SCR, right? It's because if you go up against hand control, well, your opponent's going to be, sniping your hand, and you're going to lose a lot of cards. And if you don't draw fast enough, then the likelihood of you not having that many cards to like combo, right? And what I mean combo is actually play them and use their effects in a combination to get certain results, right? So if you have a small hand size because your opponent keeps wrecking your hand, then you're going to have to rely on a 1 card win con, right? A one card to rule them all, like Rooney or Android 17 turn ties, or Android Perfect Force Cell, because you can hard cast 7 Perfect Force Cell, right, and get its effect. So it's not like you have to evolve into them. You can just hard cast them for 7 and reduce your opponent's hand size down to 3, and then try to go for game that way. Because the irony, even if the 3 cards in your opponent's hands are 5k combo power, that's only 15k, and he's a 30k double strike, so your attack will go through. So they're going to need at least 1 super combo and 2 5ks. So that's a total of 20 combo power in order to out-combo the attack. Not impossible if you actually run super combos, but it's not possible for you to end up in that scenario where you have at least 1 super combo in your hand after Perfect Force Cell hits the field. But if you combine him with like a unison that can rip cards out of your opponent's hand, then you drastically reduce their hand size, even if they have a super combo. Let's say you rip a 5k out their hand and they have a super combo. That super combo is only 10k plus the 5k from the other card. So that's still only 30k. Now let's say the super combo draws, right? Maybe you draw a battle card. Good for you. You got that. But the thing is, now you have to give up your whole entire hand just to stop this double strike. But there's still unison and a leader on the field, so they can swing and go for game. So you damage me, do damage you don't type of situation, right? So the best thing you can hope for is some type of like floodgate negate or something. so you can stay in the game longer and survive that turn and be able to get through, your turn again and hopefully make a comeback, right? But it is funny for me to, after all these years, it's been what, 4 to 5 years, going on to 5 now. Still have people, still questioning my play style, right? It's like, I'm not telling anybody to play the way I play. I'm just sharing my experience. I'm just sharing my play style, right? Just, like, for example, it's like Mike Tyson, right? Mike Tyson ain't trying to convince people to box the way he boxes. That's just the way he boxes. He fights the way he fights. And if you like the way he fights, you want to mimic it, fine. You do you, right? Or you do him, right? You pretend to be him, whatever. But he's not going around telling everybody, you got to box the way I box. You got to do what I do. Like, nah. Everybody has their way of doing things. So the main point is to respect it, right? Respect it. If it works for somebody, it works for them. I see other people playing. I see other people trying to talk about, like, how they should play and this and that. That's why I have people try to tell me how to play the game. And it's like, nah, I'm good. My way works for me. And that's all that matters to me. Because it works for me. I don't care if my way, doesn't work for other people, if that's the case. But I haven't seen any proof of that my way doesn't work for anyone else, right? And that's the thing. It's funny how some people will want me to show proof of what I say, right? But they don't show proof of what they say. Like, I'm supposed to take their word for it. They tell me, they say I'm a bad player. Okay, you can believe that all you want. That doesn't make it true, nor do you have any proof of that, right? But I do have proof of what I talk about. I do, and I definitely don't claim something that I'm not truthful about, right? I don't claim that I consistently, unequivocally, undefeatably deal 8 damage all the time when I play. I don't. There's certain factors sometimes, my opponent might have, like there was one time where I was like, finally, perfect moment, I'm going for game. I definitely got game. And I called it out. Like, I wrote in the chat on Untap, like, up, GG, and I swung, bang, Sparking the Gate came out of nowhere. It was a Dimension Magic. I'm like, oh, you kidding me? He only had one card in his hand. It just so happened to be Dimension Magic. And there was another match where I had game. I was like, oh, one more swing and I got game. And then bang, baby hatchet hit the field. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I set everything up for me to win, and these free negates, these free defensive cards just stop me, right? Which is fine, what I mean? Part of the game, they exist. I'm not, it's not like I'm saying, oh, my opponent cheated me. No, fair is fair. These cards exist, they work. Good for my opponent that they didn't lose when they obviously should have, right? But just pointing out the fact is, like, yeah, even when I have a awesome scenario where it's like, damn, my opponent just got one card in the hand, because let's say they had no cards in the hand, I swing with my leader, they take damage, right? They got one life left, so I swing with like a battle card, like, all right, I'm going for game, and then let's say my card is a 30 case, like, yeah, the likelihood of them out comboing this, even with a super combo, it's not likely, because even if they play the super combo, right, and draw a card that's another 5k, another battle card, right, and they combo it, that's only up to 30. My damage is still gonna go through. So even if they have the super combo, it's not gonna save from this attack. But then bang, a negate pops out, like, oh shit. Obviously in that scenario, Sparking Negate wouldn't work because it's still the code. But you get my point, right? Let's say they have one energy up, so they have one energy up, I swing, and then bang, they just so happen to have a negate that they just got from their life to their hand. It's like, good for you. You drew it, you got a negate from your life. I mean, it's the nature of the game. That's part of the fun, right? That's part of the randomness, as it were. So, that is the point. But more reason why you should try to incorporate cards that have crit, like Goku, Man on a Mission, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Man on a Mission. He's 20k double strike crit, and anything else that has crit, any unisons that has crit, any leaders that have crit. definitely trying to find stuff that have crit and try to incorporate into your deck, so that way you increase your chances of when you deal damage, your opponent doesn't add cards to the hand, so that way when you go for your next swing has a higher chance of going through, right? And it comes from experience. That comes from playing the game long enough to understand these things, and then you become a better player. And that's the thing, when I say my playstyle, I'm referring to myself. Somebody can just hand me one of their decks, and I'm just gonna play it the way I play it. You know, I'm gonna look the deck real quick just to see what the person put in the deck, to see if there's a strategy, if there's a win con, maybe it's a cell deck and it has the cell chain in it. It's like, okay, I'll keep that in mind if the cell chain is in the deck. So I'll try to utilize it as part of my win condition. But other than that, turn 1 I'm gonna play the way I play, turn 2 I'm gonna play the way I play, turn 3 I'm gonna play the way I play, turn 4 I'm gonna play the way I play, you know what I mean? That's the whole idea of a play style. Is your way of playing the game. Like if I was playing basketball, for example, if I'm not that good at dribbling a lot, like I'm not good at running a lot, then I'll try not to. I'll try to be the guy that jogs around, right? I'm not much of a runner, right? As an example. So if I don't like to run a lot, then I'll just be the guy that just jogs around, I will always position myself close to the basket. So that way, if somebody passes me the ball, I'm close to the basket, so I'm able to just, shoot a shot. And of course, I need to perfect, right, my ability to shoot the shot from whatever position that I put myself in. And, master, right, whatever I am good at, as opposed to, instead of trying to be good at everything, dunking, dribbling, crossovers, passing, shooting 3-pointers, right? Shooting from half court, all this extra shit, right? Alley oops, whatever, types of stuff that exists in basketball. Instead of me trying to master everything, right? Be the jack of all trades but the master of none type of stuff, right? Instead of trying to be good at everything, just be good at some things and then make the most of it. Like for example, 3-pointers, right? They're called 3-pointers for a reason because it's 3 points. So it's better to master, shooting 3-pointers because mathematically that adds up faster. And if the goal is to make 10 points, well, all I need is 4 shots, right? 4 3-pointers, and that's a total of 12. 4 3-pointers and bang. Or at least, well, anyway, the thing is, all I need is 4 shots, and as long as, they're 3 points each, all I need is 4 shots. But if I did 2-pointers, I need 5 shots, right? So I need to make 5 baskets in order to score, 10 points. Obviously, when you're playing basketball, you're part of a team, so I don't have to score that much. I could just score like 1 or 2, 3-pointers, get my team 6 points, and then let somebody else, do 2-pointers, and bang, that's a total of 10, right? That kind of stuff. So it's just a way of simplifying it. I'd rather make sure that I'm good at something that's useful. So being good at being a 3-pointer, being good at blocking, like just blocking shots, preventing our opponent from scoring 2 to 3 points here and there, right? That is beneficial to the team, and the list goes on. The point is, obviously, we're not Dragon Ball Super card game. It's not necessarily a team activity unless you're going in a team to an event. When you're playing, it's a one-on-one battle, so clearly you got to make all the shots, right? I'm responsible for dealing my opponent 8 damage, and I'm responsible for preventing my opponent from dealing me 8 damage. So the goal is, like I said, when you have a play style, it's the way you play, it's the way you think, Because every time I play, one of the effectiveness of my play style is that no matter what deck I go up against, no matter what strategy my opponent's playing, my play style is, is valid, right? It's still effective against these play styles, right? I mean, against these decks. Because a lot of times I see that it'd be annoying to me is seeing people, talk about like, yeah, against this deck I had to play this way, against that deck I had to play that way, and and it's good to obviously adapt and adjust your lines of plays based off of your what your opponent's doing, obviously. it's just being it's just adapting. So it's always a good idea to adapt to your situation, right? But realistically, games tend to play out a lot of, on average, pretty much the same way. Turn 1, usually it's a leader swing. Turn 2 is a leader and maybe a unison swing or a battle card. So there's essentially one attack turn 1, 2 attacks turn 2, and 3 attacks turn 3. And potentially you get the idea. Every turn there's always an extra attack. That's what I'm trying to say. So every turn there's extra attacks. Granted, I can do 4+ damage in turn 1, which means 4+ attacks, right? On turn 1. But again, that's because I found cards that I can use to facilitate that strategy. So of course, that works for me, and I take advantage of that. But not everyone, plays the way I play or thinks the way I think, right? So everybody plays the way they want to play. But the funny thing is the fact is, like, focusing on the idea of, like, okay, typically people would just swing with the leader, and the things I've tried this, so it's not like I'm just, it's not like what I'm talking about is just theory, right? Even though I say the term game theory, like, oh, here's some more game theory, it's not really a theory, because I actually tried it, it works, and now I'm sharing it, right? So I tried first my ideas, and then I share them, right? I don't just come up with ideas and then not try them out, right? Not test them. I have to test my theories, right? So when I come up with an idea, it's a theory. Then I go try it on Untap, and then once I see that, okay, I confirm my theory is correct. Now it's no longer a theory. Now it's just a fact. And now I share the information with those who might be interested in hearing the results of my testing, right? The results of training, as they say, right? So that's the thing. It's like I come up with ideas, I try it out, it works, then I share it. If it don't work, then I don't share it. I've had some ideas that sounded good, seemed like they should work, but they ended up not being. Either it didn't really work out the way I wanted to, or it turns out that, like, it wasn't necessary. Like, for example, a long time ago, it was about predictive. Basically, it was just reading your opponent's hands, and there was some people who obviously wanted proof and this, that, and third, and were saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, blah blah blah, when it comes to predicting the cards in your opponent's hands, right? Reading your opponent's hands through activating certain effects of, like, cards that make your opponent choose a card and stuff like that. It's like, the thing is, it's not that it wasn't valid. It's just the irony that I found a better method to reading your opponent's hand. That method of when you activate an effect that makes your opponent discard, and then they discard a card, giving you an idea of what's in their hand, is still valid. It's just that it's not everyone is that good or can grasp the concept of that. It's like, okay, I know it works for me, being able to literally look at what my opponent discarded, and now I know what's in their hand, or at least I have an idea of what's in their hand based off of what they discarded. Even though I can do it, that doesn't translate to other people. It's like, yeah, I'm sharing this idea with people, but yeah, people can't do exactly what I can do. Like, for me, this is natural, right? This is something I can do. I can tell what's in my opponent's hand based off of their body language, off of the fact of what they discarded, things of that nature, right? I understand human psychology, right? I understand human, behaviors, because I pay attention. I'm 40 years old, so I've been alive a long time, so I've learned a thing or two, because I've seen a thing or two, right? So I have a lot of experience, and I'm just trying to share it. So this experience, this advantage, the ability, that's why there's a difference between, okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is that in real life, it's easier when I'm up in front of an opponent, it's easier for me to tell what they have and what they don't have in their hand in person, because I can see their body language. There's other factors. I'm not going to go into the specifics But there's things when it comes to playing something in real life that I'm able to pick up on and use that information. So I have some, knowledge that goes beyond what you normally can see, right? And that gives me an advantage. But when I'm online, I don't have the exact same thing. To a certain degree, I can do what's called an educated guess. I can guess what my opponent has in their hands when we're playing online, but it's not the same as in real life. But that's where I came up with the concept of reading their hand based off of their energy. So what they charge is usually a mirror reflection of what's in their hand. So I made like a masterclass video about that. So again, when I have a theory, and if I'm right, in the masterclass video, I actually show gameplay of me playing somebody, and it's like me commentating while I'm playing, and the idea is like, look what this person's doing, look what this person's doing. So because they charge that card, that means there's more like an extra copy of that card. Who would charge a God Sealing Trunks while they have a blue unison? That means they have an extra one in their hand. That's why, right? What I just said should make sense. Oh, they charge a super combo. That's weird. Most people don't charge super combos, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, when you play this game long enough, and it's been 4+ years since I started playing this game, you pick up on certain things, like your opponent having one red energy. Well, it doesn't have to be one red, but just let's say 2 red energy up. Okay, that's probably going to be energy for Topo. Or if they have 1 yellow energy up, a Flying Nimbus might be there. You know what I mean? Your opponent might play a Flying Nimbus, right? Blue energy, probably a Senzu Bean, probably a Dimension Magic, Weak Cohesion, right? Back in them days, right? So it's like, depending on if your opponent leaves energy up, you pretty much can tell they have a negate. If they have 1 energy up, usually they have 1 energy negate, right? This kind of knowledge, the kind of experience is what I share, right? It's the things that I notice. The things I know is like, yeah, I notice when I play against a yellow player, they tend to leave 1 energy up, and that's for Flying Nimbus. And I've always been right every time. So that's why I share the information, because like, yeah. Same thing is, no one's going to like really charge a powerful card unless they have an extra copy. So like, if I see somebody charge a Android 17 turn at a time, it's like, okay, that means they have an extra copy, right? And the list goes on of, depending on what they're charging, is that lets you know what's in their hand, lets you know what they're thinking. I mean, if you see them, I've seen somebody charge I saw them mulligan and kept a Baby Hatchag, and then the first energy they charged was Baby Hatchag. And in the video, the person was just saying like, yeah, I'm just flexing. Like, yeah, obviously you're flexing. You kept the card because clearly it's a good card. It's a one of, why wouldn't you keep it? It's Baby Hatchag. Why wouldn't you keep it? But then you charged it. Yeah, of course you're flexing. That's all that is. But think about it. It's a flex. It's not tactical. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense to charge a Baby Hatchag. But you did it just to flex. You did it as a mind game. You did it just to show your opponent, like, you know what? I don't even need my SCR. I can beat you without it. That's what that means. It's an intimidation tactic. It's like I said, it's a flex, right? You're just trying to show off, right? So that's why you pay attention to what your opponent charges. You pay attention to what they combo or what they discard for card effects, because that's going to let you know more than what you already know. And that knowledge, that understanding of what's going on in your opponent's mind is going to give you an advantage. It will let you outplay them, outsmart them, because you are aware, you're paying attention. Most players don't pay attention to their opponents, which usually catches them off guard, and they end up in situations where like, oh, didn't know you had that card. I caught one of my opponents off guard when I dropped Turn of the Tides on turn 6, because they didn't realize that, oh, that card you play on the battlefield, that taps for energy. Even though earlier you told me that's what it does, I didn't take into account that, oh, that's a ramp. You're trying to use that to ramp to turn into tides. I thought I had one more turn. He literally said it, like, I thought I had one more turn before you play the turn into tides. I didn't realize that you were trying to play it earlier. But yeah, told you I upgraded the deck. I made it faster. I added something to ramp so I could play a turn sooner. Because the problem is not playing turn tides soon enough was the drawback, was the issue. You know, I have a really good strategy. As long as I can play turn tides, I can win. But it's hard to play it because, you know, I have to hard cast turn tides. I can't just cheat it out. Ramping is the closest to quote unquote cheating out as I got. So I gotta play what I got, right? Play what I can. Which is why I have to stall, right? With floodgate negates and stuff like that to get to the turn in which I can turn into tides. And that's the thing. It's like I have a specific plan, a specific outcome that I'm trying to get to, so I play based off of that outcome. You know, I do as much damage turn 1 and turn 2. I try to keep my defenses up turn 3 and above. Normally I don't keep my defenses up that much turn 3 and 4. It's like turn 5 or turn 4. Technically turn 4 and above is when I try to keep my defenses. Turn 3 is when I tend to keep my guard down. That's the problem. Turn 1, turn 2, my guard is already down. Turn 3, I keep my guard down. But from my experience, it's like, yeah, that's not good. Especially with how most decks are, they tend to try to go off turn 3. So I'm like, yeah, I gotta keep my guard up turn 3 and above. So I still, I defend turn 1, which is the new thing I'm doing more often, is comboing out turn 1 or negating turn 1 or something like that. So I'm trying to defend turn 1. Turn 2 is when I put my guard down, right? Try to make some aggressive play, because after turn 2 it's gonna be hard to do damage. So, you know, try to take advantage of doing as much damage as I can in the first 2 turns, and then after that keep my guard up. So it's not that different from, you know, boxing or fighting, right? Where it's like you learn to adapt, and you're like, you know what, as soon as round 1 I'm gonna keep my guard up, or round 1 I'm gonna come in swinging, but then round 2 keep my guard up, round 3 keep my guard up, and maybe round 4 I can go off again because my opponent will be so tired that maybe their defenses are down, and it's like, good, my opportunity to go for the knockout, bang, turn around, you know, round 4 knockout, right? You know, that kind of stuff. Like, you learn from, you know, from your experience, and you learn more from losing than you do from winning, right? So that's why I'm like, yeah, my new way of playing is defend turn 1, put my guard down turn 2, put my guard back up turn 3 and above, right? Just keep my defenses up. Because, you know, with a lot of this new stuff that's coming out, people are able to cheat out like really big, strong battle cards that can attack more than once and stuff like that, for example, and it does double strike or triple strike or something. So triple strike, dual attack, barrier blocker, blah blah blah, right? I meant barrier deflect, but you get my point. Like, they're playing out these big, powerful cards. Like, yeah, y'all playing out these win cons left and right. Woo! I really need to keep my defenses up. So that's why it's very important to protect my life early game, which ironically I used to do back in the day anyway. It's just that I stopped for a long time just because it wasn't really necessary to, you know, defend turn 1, turn 2, blah blah blah. So like I obviously switched up my playstyle a little bit. Basically more just going back to the way I used to play, which was defensive, and then you know, start off defensive and then move into offense. But then I switched it to start off offensively, then switch to defense. So now I'm trying to do like a kind of, you know, going backwards, which is start off defensively, especially if I go first, defense. If I'm going second, offense. That's the way to put it. That's what I'm trying to say. So if I go first, definitely try to defend. But if I go second, definitely try to go aggro. And then after that, just keep my defenses up. Just play defense for the rest of the game. Because as long as I have a leader and a unison, I can just chip away at my opponent's life. I don't need to make a play every turn. I don't have to play something every turn. I can just ride on my leader and unisons. And recently, from my experience, a lot of my some of my unisons are really, really good unisons, and they stick on the field sorry, for a long time. That I literally ride on the backs of my unisons. So it's like, all right, well, let my unison, put in the work, right? No need for me to do much of anything. Just let my unisons do work. So that's where I'm at right now. Just sitting back, letting my unisons and leader, put in the work, do what they do, since they'll be there for a long time, for the good times, right? They'll be there for the long time, not the short time, right? And they'll put in the work while I sit back and relax and just keep my defenses up, pay attention to what my opponent's doing, make sure that I'm always doing more damage to them than they're doing to me, and that's it. And it's that simple. Just that explanation of how I play and my train of thought when it comes to playing the game works against any deck. You notice I'm not talking about a specific matchup, like, oh, if I go up against a blue deck, I have to play this way. If I go up against green, I have to play this way. This. Like, nah. The only time I have to play a little bit different, the only time I have to take certain things to account is when certain effects are being used, like hand control, mill, maybe burn, right? These are the types of things that I'm like, okay, I gotta do something. I gotta play a little bit different to counteract these effects. But other than that, when it comes to attacking and defending, I'm using the same strategy every time. I'm going to attack the same way every time. I'm going to defend the same way every time. Pretty much, I'm just going to fight the same way every time until somebody pulls out nunchucks, right? And then it's like, oh, gotta switch up. Gotta switch up how I'm fighting because somebody pulled out nunchucks, right? As an example. But other than that, if we're just going to be playing the same way, attack, block, right? Attack, swing, right? Attack and defend, then I'm just going to keep playing the same way over and over again. And like I said, it works for me. It gets me the results that I want. I've never claimed any results beyond what I have presented so far. I've said it many times. The first 4 damage is the easiest because your opponent lets you deal them that damage. Usually you can deal that damage just by swinging every turn with your leader. The next 2 requires a little bit of effort. That's where you try to sneak in like a double strike damage, like Chomper or something like that, and try to sneak in a double strike damage past your opponent's defenses. And then the last 2 is the hardest, not impossible. I've been managing to be able to do 7 damage consistently, so it's not impossible, but dealing 8 damage is the ultimate goal. And that's when I'll be in my final form, as I call it, Master Ultra Instinct, where I can easily do 8 damage with little to no effort. So that's why I'm, trying different lines of play, right? Or I should say different lines of defensive play, because my game plan is still the same. The first 2 turns, try to deal 4 to 6 damage, and then just finish my opponent off, either through burn, through battle damage, right, through attacks, and then that's it. Obviously combo like Android 17, the cell chain, or just Perfect Force, I should say, chain Zeno strategy, the Gogeta strategy, anything that can reduce my opponent's hand size, I'll take advantage of. But yeah, burn and reducing my opponent's hand size and then going for game are the main ways I'm trying to win. Mill is the other way I would like to try to win, but obviously I gotta work on some mill strategies. Because there was one really good one, but that's been nerfed. That's the Android 18 mill deck. I like that deck. That was very creative, and I respected that. It's like, cool, somebody put in an effort to make a really good mill deck. but I got nerfed, so it's like, okay, gotta try some other stuff. It did make Cooler Mill, so I like Cooler Mill. I got the cards of the Cooler deck, so I'm a fan of Cooler Mill, because of the fact that you can mill more with that deck than you could with Janemba. But I am looking into, messing around with Janemba, and I'm trying to mill for some other, do some mill stuff for some other decks, like Hatchak Mill, obviously, right? Hatchak Mill, and the Black Shinron Mill, that kind of stuff. Definitely trying to look into more of that stuff. But more likely, I'd definitely be leaning to Cooler Mill, Janemba Mill, and of course Hatchak Mill. Because right now I'm doing Hatchak Burn or Gogeta Burn, but I do have the stuff for Hatchak, Unison Aggro, or Hatchak Unison Aggro, whatever you want to call it. That's one of my decks that I'm working on right now, is Hatchak Unison Aggro. Obviously, I've done many Unison Hatchak decks, obviously, but this is more of a mono black Unison deck. Most of the other Hatchak Unison decks are colored ones. This one is mono black. So I already posted the deck profile for that already. So I'll try to get around to doing some gameplays with it. I am currently, like, in real life, using Hatchak. So when I was hoping to go to locals this past Sunday, but we didn't go. It rained and so many other things happened. We had other things to do, so me and my teammate didn't go to locals. But this weekend we probably will go to locals, and so I'll be taking Hatchak. I'm doing the Gogeta Burn for now, but I will eventually try out the other variant of Hatchak, the aggro version, because the burn version isn't aggro. I mean, I could try to play it in an aggro kind of way, but it's not really aggro. But the other version is more aggro because it has a specific line of play where I'm playing turn 1 and turn 2. I'm playing unisons, and then turn 3 and above, I'm playing everything else. But anyway, that'll be the end of this podcast.